I've been raising Shih Tzus for more than 10 years. Not one dog, not two. Enough to understand a very down-to-earth truth like this. Shih Tzus don't bother you with flying fur, but they test you with patience. And if you're asking, do Shih Tzus shed or not, the most honest answer isn't yes or no, but how they shed, and whether you're ready to live with that kind of shedding. When I first started, I believed the advertising too. It sounded great. Shih Tzus shed very little, perfect for clean indoor living. I bought into it immediately, until one evening, sitting there carefully pulling out small clumps of hair from behind my dog's ears, while the dog sighed like an old man, and I wondered, so, where exactly is the little shedding part? Later I understood that Shih Tzus don't shed loudly. They shed quietly, silently. And if you don't pay attention, the consequences arrive slowly but painfully. Shih Tzus have hair more like human hair, long, fine strands that grow continuously and fall out one by one every day. Not in dramatic seasonal explosions like huskies or goldens. You won't see hair flying around the house. Your sofa won't turn into a cotton cloud. But in exchange, the shed hair doesn't fall to the floor, it gets trapped inside their own coat. And that's where the trouble begins. The benefits are obvious. If you live in a small apartment, hate seeing dog hair stuck to black clothes, or tend to sneeze when fur floats in the air. A Shih Tzu can be a very comfortable choice. In my home, guests are often surprised by how clean it feels. No smell, no hair drifting around. For people with mild allergies, living with a Shih Tzu is often much easier than with heavy shedding breeds. But the downsides are rarely explained honestly from the start. Low shedding does not mean low maintenance. In fact, the less a Shih Tzu sheds, the more consistent care it needs. Skip brushing for just a few days and the hair behind the ears, under the neck, in the armpits, and on the belly will start to tangle. Light tangles can still be fixed. Leave them too long and they turn into tight mats that pull on the skin, cause pain, irritation, itching, and can lead to skin infections. I've seen many owners say, he suddenly started scratching a lot, when the real reason was simply dead hair building up for too long without being removed. There are times when Shih Tzus shed more than usual, and if you've had them long enough, you notice it immediately. During the transition from puppy coat to adult coat, usually in the first several months. When the weather changes, especially during hot and humid periods. When the dog is stressed, moves to a new environment, or switches food. And especially when nutrition is lacking or bathing routines are wrong, during these times, you'll see more hair coming out when brushing, more hair during baths. And if you don't handle it properly, dead hair accumulates twice as fast. The solutions aren't complicated, but they demand consistency. Brushing is almost a daily task if you keep the coat long. It doesn't take much time, 5 to 10 minutes is enough. Bathe appropriately, without overusing harsh shampoos. Feed a balanced diet, especially with enough healthy fats for skin and coat. If you're busy, choose a puppy cut. Don't force a long coat just because it looks pretty online. A Shih Tzu looks best when it's comfortable and its skin isn't hurting.
Yes, you are.
After 10 years, I've learned one very honest thing: Shih Tzus are not for lazy people, but they are absolutely worth it for those who are willing to care. Less hair on the floor in exchange for more intimate moments sitting there brushing, talking, and feeling that dog trust you completely. Owning a Shih Tzu isn't about keeping things cleaner. It's about caring for a breed that needs gentle, thoughtful attention. And when you give enough, what you get back is a very deep bond. If you're watching this video and wondering whether a Shih Tzu is right for you, remember this. They don't shed to annoy you. They shed to remind you that they need you every single day.
Just checking your belly.
And that is exactly what makes people who raise Shih Tzus stay connected for so long, so deeply, and find it so hard to ever let go. There's something only people who've lived with Shih Tzus long enough come to understand: their coat isn't just hair. It's a form of language. It tells you whether the dog is okay today, whether it's being cared for properly, or whether it's silently enduring something. I once went through a very busy period. Work took over. And at home, I barely had time to feed my dog before falling asleep. Brushing got skipped for a few days. At first, nothing seemed wrong. But one evening, when I ran my hand down its back, I felt a patch of hair that was stiff and warmer than usual. It didn't cry out. It just turned and looked at me with a strange expression, like it was saying, "So you finally touched this spot." That was when I understood Shih Tzus don't complain, they endure. Another time, a friend asked me to look after their Shih Tzu for 2 weeks. That dog barely shed any hair around the house. The place stayed clean, but every time I brushed it, the comb was full of dead hair. The hair didn't fall onto the floor, it stayed on the dog's body. And if no one removes it, it becomes a burden. I spent nearly an hour gently working through thin layers, little by little, while the dog lay still, as if it was used to waiting. In moments like that, you realize something very real. Shih Tzus don't need you to be great. They need you to be consistent. Many people ask me why longtime Shih Tzu owners seem so deeply attached. The answer lies in the small moments no one posts online. Evenings sitting on the floor, brushing their coat, soft music playing in the background. Weekend mornings when the dog automatically runs to where the brush is kept. Hot days when you trim their hair shorter and see them suddenly move with more energy. A Shih Tzu's coat teaches you how to observe slowly, how to notice the smallest changes, and how to take responsibility for what you've neglected. I've also met people who say Shih Tzus are hard to raise. They're not. They just don't suit careless ownership. You can't raise a Shih Tzu if you only like them when they look pretty. You have to accept the tangled days, the tiring detangling sessions, the times you cut their hair short because you couldn't keep up. But that's exactly what creates a very real bond. Every time you care for a Shih Tzu's coat, you're adding another layer of trust. After many years, I realized I no longer brush their hair because I'm afraid of shedding, mess, or illness. I brush because it's how I tell them I'm still here, still paying attention, still not forgetting. And the dog understands. It lies still. It breathes steadily. It trusts. If you've watched this far, you probably already have a Shih Tzu. Or you're thinking about getting one. I don't recommend this breed because they shed less. I recommend them because they force you to slow down, to care consistently,
You're such a
and
good
to learn
boy,
how to bond
almost
through
done
very
now.
small acts. A Shih Tzu doesn't need a perfect owner. It just needs someone who remembers to brush today, and tomorrow, and the day after that. And in that repetition, a very strong relationship forms far stronger than anything you see in a few beautiful photos online. There was a time when I thought I understood Shih Tzus very well.
There we go.
I'd raised them for
All
years.
brushed and
My hands were
handsome.
used to brushing.
Who's a good dog?
I could look at the coat and immediately tell its
Who's a
condition.
good boy?
But the longer I lived with them,
Yes, you
the more I
are.
realized this breed is like
Such
a living
fluffy
diary.
little guy.
Every day it writes a new line directly onto its own body. And if you don't read it, no one can read it for you. I remember one rainy morning when the air was so damp that clothes wouldn't dry even after 2 days on the line. My Shih Tzu refused to lie in its usual spot and kept lingering near my feet. When I picked it up, I noticed the coat had a faint damp smell, not bad, just different. No one ever taught me what to do in that situation. It was simply years of accumulated experience that made me understand that air humidity also affects a Shih Tzu's coat and skin. And if you ignore it, a few days later come the itching, the scratching, the heavier shedding. I dried it off, gently blow-dried, brushed again. Everything was fine.
Easily this
Moments
comb
like that
removes the
never
dead
become
hair.
viral videos, but they're exactly what
Good job,
determines whether a
so
dog stays
patient.
healthy or not.
As you brush,
Another
you'll feel
time,
the dead hair
I
accumulate
noticed
on
more
the
hair
bone.
coming out during
It's important
brushing,
to remove this
even though
regularly
nothing
to
major had
prevent matting
changed.
and keep their
No
coat
illness,
healthy.
no obvious stress. After a few days of observing, I realized the only thing that was different was the food bowl. I had switched to a new brand because the advertising sounded good. But a Shih Tzu's coat is very honest. It reacts quickly to what doesn't suit it. I went back to the old food and added some fish oil. And shortly after, The shedding dropped noticeably. Shih Tzus don't speak, but their coat speaks very clearly. What's interesting is that the longer I raise them, the less I care about whether they shed a lot or a little. Instead, I care about how the dog feels while being brushed. If it lies still, breathes evenly, doesn't pull away, it means I'm doing things right. If it twists, fidgets, seems uncomfortable, it means there's something I've missed. Living with Shih Tzus for years changes how you judge things. You stop asking, is the house clean, and start asking, is this dog comfortable? I've met many people who give up after a few months because caring for a Shih Tzu feels time-consuming. But the people who push through the first year often stay for the long haul, even bringing home a second or third dog. Because once you get past the learning phase of coat care, you realize something strange. Caring for a Shih Tzu doesn't drain you, it slows you down. And in a world that's always rushing, slowing down for a few minutes each day to brush a small dog becomes a kind of balance. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think Shih Tzus are a perfect breed. They're not convenient, not effortless, not for people who want everything to run on autopilot. But they are honest. Everything shows up in that coat. Care consistently, and the coat looks good. Neglect it, and the coat reflects it immediately. No hiding, no shortcuts. And maybe that's exactly why so many people stay attached. Because in the relationship between humans and dogs, honesty is what keeps us staying the longest. There was one very ordinary evening, nothing special happening, but I still remember it clearly. I was brushing its coat, like every day. Outside were the sounds of traffic, people, the familiar noise of the city. Inside, there was only the sound of the brush moving through layers of soft hair, slow and steady. The Shih Tzu lay on its side, eyes half closed. And I suddenly realized something slightly funny and a little sad. I knew its breathing rhythm better than my own. Only when you've lived together long enough, close enough, do moments like that exist. The coat stops being just about hygiene. It becomes a shared rhythm between two living beings in the same space. There are days when I'm not in a good mood. Work isn't going well. My body feels tired. My mind feels heavy. I still brush its coat, but my hands move more slowly. The dog notices. It doesn't squirm or get up. It just turns its head and rests its chin on my thigh. Whether the hair is shedding more or less doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that there is a living being choosing to stay. When you don't have to pretend you're okay. I think that's something many Shih Tzu owners feel, even if few ever say it out loud. I've seen many new owners ask, if I'm too busy, is it okay to skip brushing for a few days? The honest answer is maybe nothing will happen right away. But the Shih Tzu will remember, not in a resentful way. It remembers through very small changes. The coat becomes drier, the skin more sensitive. They don't blame you, but their bodies record it. And when you return to caring for them, you have to do more to make up for it. Shih Tzus teach a very real-life lesson. Small things that are neglected don't disappear. They just pile up and wait. There was a time when I tried raising my Shih Tzu in a more minimal way. Shorter cuts, less brushing, simplifying everything. At first, it felt easier. But after a few months, I realized I was missing something important in that relationship. Not because the dog was unhappy, but because I lost a very personal slice of time each day, where I didn't need to do anything except care for another living being. I went back to brushing regularly, slowly, carefully. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Strangely, the Shih Tzu videos I've made that went most viral were never the ones about advanced techniques or fancy care tips. They were the very ordinary moments: hair caught in the brush, a dog lying still, an owner sighing and then smiling. People saved those videos not to learn how to brush a coat, but to find themselves in those small moments. Anyone who has lived with a Shih Tzu understands this feeling, even if they've never named it. If you ask me, after all these years, what truly makes Shih Tzus different from other breeds? I won't talk about looks or low shedding. I'll say that they create very small but very enduring rituals. And the coat sits at the center of those rituals. Every brushing is a check-in on your presence in the dog's life. And in return, the dog confirms that it's still here, still trusting you, still choosing to lie quietly under your hands.